Welcome back to Worldview. Now, independent progressive media in the USA continues to experience growing pains compared to massively funded right-wing media. 2 weeks ago, a major television outlet, Current TV, disappeared as its new parent company, Al Jazeera, launched its new American-branded channel on its former bandwidth. Its demise took with it a number of progressive voices and shows, leaving mostly independents, such as our affiliates, The David Pakman Show and The Young Turks, and our next guest, Sam Seder of The Majority Report, to keep struggling to fight the good fight.
That awareness and the fact that New Yorkers acted upon it is an encouraging sign. And I'm not convinced, we're a couple days away from the two-year anniversary of Occupy. And I'm not convinced that that wasn't, that still isn't having, that those months in particular didn't change the perspective of New Yorkers, or at least make them more aware and more conscious of the fact that it needs to be addressed.
Now, Sam Seder is a true pioneer with the arrows in his back to prove it. He's a commentator and a comedian, and one of the original voices of the progressive Air America network that launched him, Rachel Maddow, Mark Maron, and many others. Now, back in 2004, he became the co-host with Janine Garofalo of Air America's Majority Report, and several iterations later, it is his independent show broadcast daily from Midtown Manhattan. Sam Seder, welcome to Worldview.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you, man. Now, progressive news is almost non-existent over here in this country, so let's start with the state of progressive nation, shall we say, there in radio and TV in the USA. What do you see as trends for progressive voices there?
Well, frankly, I mean, at this point, it looks like there's going to be, it's basically just independent voices like mine, like Pakman's, like you mentioned, the Young Turks. Right now, I don't see any big developments, and to the extent that we had other progressive outlets, they're either trending more centrist or corporatist or just going away.
Now, there were great hopes for Al Gore and Current Television. Talk a little bit about what went wrong there and why that seemed to fall.
You know, one of the things that I experienced during Air America's 5 or 6 year run was the problem with management, frankly. And that was a function of the fact that we had 5 owners and 6 CEOs over the course of those 5 or 6 years. And one of the big problems was that the money people came in with, and each time, almost a third agenda, aside from business and aside from politics, which is not to say that most of them weren't in the right place in terms of their politics, but it was either a vanity project or something they perceived would open up other doors for them. And the problem with that is that you're not having someone focus on what is a legitimately, potentially good business. And frankly, my sense at Current was that one of Al Gore's partners saw this as a stepping stone for a political career. It's very easy for someone with that kind of money who watches TV to assume that they know what they're doing. And I think really, frankly, the biggest problem that Current had was that they could not make use of an incredible talent, and that being Keith Olbermann. And they did not essentially build a network around him the way that they initially had expressed was their plans.
We're talking with Sam Seder. He's host of the U.S.-based Majority Report on Majority.fm on Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Now, Sam, you fly solo for much of your program, while others like David and Cenk engage in dialogue and banter with others on the set there. You've got some of that, but for the most part, your commentary seems to get stronger as you gather momentum in that often halting monologue sort of style. It's as if both you and the audience get a few seconds to think about where a thought is headed. At least I feel more involved that way. How did that come about, and why do you think that it works so well for you?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I come from a background, performance background, and I also, from a very early age, was involved in politics. I have some fairly strong perspectives on things, and it was just something that developed over years of AM talk radio, and it's a place where I feel comfortable. I mean, we have a decent amount of banter in the office, but it's true. I think I feel most comfortable when I can think these problems out. I mean, part of what I do in terms of the interviews and when I'm monologuing is I am working these things out myself in my head, and I feel like I have a strong foundation in knowing what I believe, but as different situations arise, I like to apply that. And I don't know. I was raised by a pack of lawyers, and I imagine that helped too.
And from Massachusetts as well, where I grew up, so I do understand that. Now, Sam, you're known for making statements, and I remember the 2004 RNC gig you did and your detention by the U.S. Secret Service. Was that commentary or comedy or both? What actually happened there?
Well, I was walking through the RNC hall in Madison Square Garden with a sign that was asking to talk to a gay Republican. At that time, during the 2004 election, if you remember, Dennis, Karl Rove had used homophobic and anti-marriage equality referendum around the country as a way to draw out the Republican base. And I wanted to get a sense from a gay Republican how you could be a member of a party where your president went on national television in the evening and basically said, "I'm sorry, but I have to promote the changing of our Constitution to discriminate against gay people." And so I thought the best way to do that was to hold a sign up, a small sign, and walk the floor. And at one point, the Secret Service, I was surrounded by about a half dozen Secret Service guys. There had been protests on the floor. I had press credentials. They were about to drag me out. And at the time, I was wearing multiple flag pins on my lapel, because another sort of right-wing meme at the time was if you didn't wear a flag lapel pin, you obviously hated the country. And I wanted to show that I was multiple times more patriotic than the Republicans. So I had about a half dozen on my lapel at the time. One of them was a gift from a Secret Service agent from the Democratic National Committee. He was a fan of the show, and literally, as the Secret Service agent was dragging me out, he looked at my lapel pin, saw the Secret Service insignia, and just said, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, I got it from a Secret Service guy at the DNC. And then he dropped his hands, and he just looked at me, and he just said, "Don't do anything." And so there was a little bit of comedy and a little bit of journalism there. I ultimately found a gay Republican. I was literally ushered over to one end of, this is a huge stadium, 15,000 people. And the guy ushered me over, and he whispered, he said, "I think there's one in California." And so I went to the other end of the arena. I found that gentleman. I had a really fascinating interview with him, with the backdrop of people cheering for whoever was speaking on stage, and he was nearly in tears, saying that he couldn't leave the Republican Party. He was in his mid-60s, and he was holding out for possible change from within. And it was really, it was a very moving juxtaposition between all those people cheering around him and this guy sort of white-knuckled holding on to his identity as a Republican.
It really is stunning to watch sometimes. And, one of the interesting things, particularly when I look at the reporting by the mainstream media on Syria, I mean, it's just been a spectacle of bad reporting across all spectrums. And, there's this desperate need, it seems, for a black or white solution, to be able to put Syria in a box, to be able to put Iran in a box, to be able to put us in a box. And there seems to be this continual beating of the drums of war, where we really need to have some nuance and some gray. Why is that so difficult to find in the mainstream media, or is that a hallucination on my part?
Well, no, I don't think that's an hallucination. I mean, I think nuance does not necessarily sell like something that's just completely binary. I mean, I understand the impetus of people in this country wanting to do something about the bloodshed that's going on there. I mean, we're talking a genuine humanitarian tragedy here. But there are times where there's simply no good solutions. And the strange thing in our media is that not only do we get this binary choice of it's not our problem or we should start lobbing missiles into the country, we hear no conversation about providing humanitarian aid. We hear no genuine conversations about broad diplomatic initiatives. So it's strange, and the only thing I can say is that fortunately the American public seems to be very well against the idea of Syrian intervention, and in some respects we may, I don't want to say we've learned a lesson from Iraq, but we may be a little bit gun-shy, to forgive the pun, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, absolutely, and as we saw in the debate here in this country in Parliament, an absolutely riveting debate that went on for 7 or 8 hours, where it wasn't just political bloviating and pop shots being taken by everybody. It was real, substantive, must-see TV. It really makes a difference.
And it had a dramatic effect in this country. I don't think that the president would have gone to Congress were it not for the fact that the Brits were not with us. And in some respects, it shows the need and the efficacy for international institutions to validate any given country's move to war, because the more countries you have in on that decision, the less likely it's going to happen.
Indeed. Well, Sam, this has been great fun talking shop with you today. Pleasure having you here on the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It was a pleasure for me as well.
I hope we can do this again. And we didn't even talk about Wiener or Spitzer, both of whom were turned away by the voters this week. We'll have to do that next time.
Indeed.
Sam Seder is the host of The Majority Report every weekday at noon on majority.fm. That's noon Eastern Time, and syndicated across the USA. And you can download the podcast of his show on iTunes and the Android store. He joined us today from his studio in New York City. You're watching Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Keep it right here.